Hey guys, I'm Dan,
And I'm Melissa.
and we're doing the channel Pineapples and Snowflakes, right? That's what we're calling it?
Something like that.
We're gonna do that one again. Hey guys, I'm Dan,
And I'm Melissa.
and our channel is Pineapples and Snowflakes. Alright, so choosing embryo adoption definitely was not something we were thinking about when we got married and we knew we couldn't have kids naturally.
Nope.
Wasn't on the radar, we didn't know about it at all. And I think we knew about adoption and egg donors, that kind of thing.
Fostering options like that. But when we heard about embryo donation through our clinic and reproductive endocrinologist, there were kind of three major factors that played into what we decided. First of all, it is a lot less expensive than doing IVF, which, again, IVF wasn't even an option for us unless we did an egg donor. And egg donors are so expensive. Fresh or frozen cycle eggs, very expensive. And we just didn't want to do that.
And you could try for a long time and not get viable embryos out of that.
You could end up with one embryo or 15 embryos.
Exactly. And that's kind of the thing that's been happening a lot with embryo donation and adoption is that people have 15 embryos and they're done building their family when they have 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 kids, and so that's really what got our attention too. We can meet up with donor parents, or we can get this opportunity to give these embryos life that they would have never had. I mean, they're either frozen forever or discarded, or they can be used for science. And there are reasons that people would choose those things, but for us we thought this is a really cool way to just be a part of this baby's life in a completely different way than normal, and to give them life.
When people ask us, well, why didn't you just do infant adoption or foster to adopt, I just so dearly wanted to have that experience of being pregnant and carrying a child. And we're not even necessarily saying we would never consider adoption or fostering. It's just that I wanted that experience. We both wanted to have that connection to the baby, and
amazingly that's possible.
And then another thing was just that and this was something I really struggled with. I don't really struggle with it anymore now that we're years into this journey. I really had a hard time thinking about an egg donor, and the way I would say it is it would just be weird to have a baby and look at them and be like, oh, those are Dan's eyes, but whose smile is that? I really did have a hard time thinking about a baby that was genetically Dan's and not genetically mine. I think I'd be okay with it now, but we just agreed if our baby couldn't be genetically both of ours, it would be genetically neither of ours. And it's kind of cool. You actually, when you give birth to an adopted embryo, you actually are considered the biological mother. You're not the genetic mother, but you are their biological mother. And truly, they're born and you're already on their birth certificate. That baby never knows another family or another parent than the two of you, and you really are their parents, even if they're not genetically yours and there's a donor family in the picture. You are their mother and their father, and that just is so beautiful. So now we're going to talk a little bit about the 3 different options that there are when you're pursuing embryo adoption and donation, and that's actually also where the difference between the terms embryo adoption and embryo donation come from. So the 3 methods are private donation, and that's where you match on your own with a donor, or if you're a donor, match with a recipient, and you can do that basically any way. We used a website called Miracles Waiting. There's kind of 2 major ones. There's Miracles Waiting, and there's what is the other one?
I can't remember, but we'll put the
NRFA.
Links. Yeah,
NRFA, National Registry for Adoption.
And we were about to join that one too, but we matched on Miracles Waiting. So I think a lot of people do join both of those. And like I said, we'll put links down there so you guys can click through and go to those websites.
Yeah.
But
there's also an excellent Facebook group where a lot of people match. You can post as a donor or a recipient. You can post a profile and find each other and contact each other, which is just a cool free way to do that. Plus, it's this whole great community where you can learn a lot and post all your questions.
Right, because both of the websites that we just mentioned, they do cost a little bit of money. Not much, but they do cost.
Yeah.
You do the same thing there. You post a profile, you kind of explain who you are, you give your background. You're hoping to connect with someone out there who says, oh, I really kind of see myself in them, or I like their values, or whatever that the donor is looking for. So you kind of have to be just really honest and open and hope you find someone that fits. It's a two-way street as well.
Yeah. So that's the first one. The second one is if you're going to go through a clinic. And clinics, a lot of times, they do IVF for people, and then those people have leftover embryos, and they just decide to donate them back to the clinic. A lot of times, I'd say it's anonymous. And
the embryos never leave the clinic. It's kind of like this ecosystem where they're able to help even more couples that come in because their previous couples did IVF and were successful, and it's a pretty good system as far as I don't think there's a ton of hoops to jump through. You just have to do what the clinic requires you to do every step of the way. And
you pay to get on a waiting list, and then when it's your turn, they send you any profiles to choose from of embryos that are waiting.
Kind of anonymous information about the background or the parents or whatever.
Yeah, so that's another option. And the last one is an agency donation. And this is where the term embryo adoption kind of comes from. They act just like an agency would with a normal infant adoption. You have to do a home study, and
there's psychological counseling, there's a lot of things that are, it's very much exactly as if you were adopting an infant. Basically, they've taken that process or that protocol and they've said, this is what we're going to do. And because of that, the people who donate their embryos to those agencies know, that people are going to jump through hoops and be vetted and go through all the steps needed to take care of their donated embryos.
Honestly, legally,
this is interesting.
An embryo adoption / donation is a transfer of property. It's not an adoption. Legally, also financially, donors cannot be compensated for their embryos. These are already fertilized.
This is what's kind of interesting, though. Like she said, it's legally a transfer of property, but there's also provisions where you can't buy or sell biological material, basically. So in a way they are, and in a way they aren't. And because of that, you'll have contracts with the donors, you'll have contracts or with the agency if you go through an agency, and they're kind of the middleman and they do it all. The contracts are very important, and they kind of make sure that the donors have their wishes spelt out and make sure their expectations are known, and same with the recipients, who also kind of need to know where they stand with the donors and what kind of relationship there's going to be for the rest of their lives.
So kind of the downside to an agency embryo adoption is it's a higher cost because
there's a lot more that goes into it.
They're an agency and they're charging you an agency fee. There's also a lot of hoops to jump through. The great part about it is that they take care of all of it for you. They have the most readily available embryos, so people aren't on these crazy long wait lists. Some places, you're on these wait lists for a year or more just to have your name called and be able to select embryos. And so they do all of that. They coordinate with your clinic and everything. And so it's just kind of a one-stop thing. But you do have to do all these extra steps, and it does cost more.
A lot more fees, generally speaking. I don't think we've ever seen an agency that's anywhere close to what it is if you match privately and have your own reproductive endocrinologist doing the transfer.
And we've mentioned this before. The price ranges are crazy. For all of these, it varies. What we pay is going to be way different than what someone doing the exact same thing but from a different clinic.
And maybe we'll do a video just on range of cost.
Yeah, we're going to try. We're going to do as much research as we can and make a video. It's all going to be just all over the place, but we're going to do our best because that's information we so desperately wanted when we were starting this process and didn't have good access to.
Right.
So out of those three options, clinic, private donation, and agency embryo adoption, we chose private donation. And you might think we are done now. We've made all of the decisions, looked at all of our options, but no. there was a whole nother set of things we had to consider, and that was if we wanted an open, a semi-open, or a closed/anonymous donation. So basically, open is wide open. Everybody knows everybody. We know a lot of people who have a wide open relationship with their donors or recipients, and
a lot of times it's like absolutely like extended family. Like,
yeah, they call each other aunts and
right.
uncles and cousins, or I've heard the term dibblings, which is cute. That's for donor siblings. Semi-open is more where you kind of choose the amount of contact you want. You know.
Semi-open is when you create any sort of like structure or guidelines for how you're going to relate to the donor family moving forward.
Yeah, like if you want X number of updates per year, or if you only want to be able to share medical information and have each other's contact information.
Semi-open can be very open still, or it can be really closed. It's really just creating a sort of a formal agreement about how you want to proceed.
Yeah. And then closed, which is usually no contact or contact through an agency. We decided pretty early on that we did not want a closed adoption. That was just what we felt was right for us. It was really important to us that when our kids are older and they understand where they came from and know that they have genetic family out there, that they had the option to reach out to them. It was just, we really wanted that.
Right, because for us anyway, we could imagine the idea, and both of us are youngest growing up. I think both of us...
Youngest for the win!
I think both of us always sort of would understand that, I guess, feeling that you want more siblings or something like that. You always wanted a little brother or sister. And
yes, fun fact, growing up, the Idaho Statesman, the paper that I read, had a weekly Wednesdays child where it would literally be a profile of a kid who needed to be adopted, and I would read it to my parents almost every Wednesday because I wanted a sibling so badly that I wanted them to adopt one. They didn't, but I mean...
But you can see where we're coming from. And also, I always wanted a twin. I thought that would be so cool. I mean, I think as a youngest, you get that sense of you're kind of left out a little bit sometimes. And so I think for us, that played a part of, we just, we wanted to give our future kids a chance to
know their donor family.
Meet their donor family and make sure that no doors were really closed for that. So that's why after we did some research, let's face it, she did a ton of research. We were like, okay, so if we're going to go for semi-open, maybe we need to do a private match just so we have more sort of control over the types of donors we can look at and think about and meet. And I think that's why we went that route.
So we made our profile, and let us know if you guys are interested. We'd be happy to like maybe make a Google Doc and share what our profile looked like.
And we'll have to do a whole video on sort of the process of matching privately because it was traumatic and stressful, and wondering if you were going to match, and you're waiting and hoping. So we have to do a whole video on that. But yeah, for now, I mean, it's just like we chose private matching. We're really glad we did. We love our donors, and we're so glad they picked us because really, that's how it all happened. Like, you get picked. Which is really cool.
It's one of the most like surreal experiences because these two people who we think are so wonderful somehow saw something in us that I can't see. Like, I'm not saying that I don't think that, like I have value as a person, but for someone who like loves those embryos more than probably anyone else in the world will, like it's them and it's us, and to look at you and to say...
I still can't believe it. I look back on it and I still can't believe that somebody...
I'm getting like teary because it was just so incredible.
Picked us.
Yeah.
You don't expect it to happen. Like, you really, like, deep down think it might not.
Yeah. So, that's
our story of how we chose embryo donation over all those other options and specifically private matching and semi-open. And so that's a lot, but hopefully you've learned something about this. And if you have any questions about any of that, put them in the comments. We will try to answer. She'll answer everybody, I'm sure. So.
Oh, yes. So thank you for watching.
Yeah.
We appreciate it. Sorry for the tears. It's an emotional journey. That will not be the last time you see one of us cry.
That's true.